Welcome students of Form 4. Again, we are still talking about these free villages, free peasants, and crown colony government. And this video in specific has the topic of how crown colony government was implemented. Crown means it was coming from the government in Britain. So it was coming from Europe and it was adopted, implemented in the British Caribbean. That's why my bad crown after all. We're going to talk more about that. And the focus will be on the verbs, assessing, explaining, and evaluating. So these are things you have to be able to do. Very important. The objective, explaining adoption, implementation of crown colony government. Crown colony government. And like I said before, crown colony, crown insinuates, means here that it came from Europe, it came from the British crown. A crown is worn by a king or a queen in this instance. Queen Victoria as was back then, in the second half of the 19th century. Perhaps you've ever heard of Victorian England. Queen Victoria of England and her prime ministers. Then the answer to the objective. 16. Popular dissatisfaction. Oh. Yes, explain at the very least 4 sentences while incorporating popular considerations, slave societies, the sugar industry, and unfavorable reports that during the second half of the 20th century, British government became convinced change was necessary. So these 4 topics or keywords have to be used, incorporated in your answer. And the verb that is used here is explain. So explain is about why the British government became convinced that change was necessary during the second half of the 19th century. Yeah, and I see I made a mistake here. It wasn't the 20th century. It was, of course, meneer Pescado, the 19th. I hope you recognize the 19th here. I made a mistake. I will alter that just after this video. The 19th. Yes, so this is pretty important. Let's look at the answer of this specific question. First, we refer back to the main question that is here. British government became convinced change was needed because. So this is a trick, but a very essential trick. You refer back to the question. British government became convinced change was necessary because many plantation owners had installed overseers with little social consideration. So a lot of the times the plantation owners left to Europe and they left overseers behind that weren't very kind, that were often racist, and they treated the workers on the plantations badly. Also, the assemblies pursued policies that had the intent of preserve much of slave society, which is colorism, which is inherent racism. The sugar industry had many problems, and this made the ruling elite more oppressive. Sugar industry, that's 3. Unfavorable reports concerning, for instance, mismanagement and healthcare convinced Britain change was needed. So we see I have social considerations, I have slave societies, sugar industry is incorporated, and unfavorable reports. See that? Social considerations, slave society over here, and over there. Then over there, the sugar industry, and over there, unfavorable reports. Yes, and the second half more below, concerning, for instance, mismanagement in healthcare. And then again, in the end, also referring back to the question, they all convinced Britain that change was really needed. Yeah, so change was needed in the Caribbean, and this was the opinion of the British government of Britain. Yeah, so you see in the end, I also refer back to the question. I hope this made clear what the answer should be. Please take note. Of course, it should be the 19th century, figment of the mind. I will alter that in my PowerPoint just now. And I hope you found this video helpful. If you have remarks, questions, points of improvement that I try every time, let me know during class. Subscribe below, ask the questions below, or do this in Google Classroom. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend if you have that in front of you. And I will probably see you soon. Let's keep in touch.